I'm Mike Imel with Imel Sons Hardwood Floors. The sanding process is what we do, and everybody's different. Everybody has their own method that they think is the best. What we do is, on a new installation, what we do, cross sand the floor at a 45-degree angle first, and that's to level all the high wood down to where it's all not any high spots or low spots. We do that with usually a used 50 grit paper. And a sharp 50 is a little too aggressive for that, so we use 50 grit. Then we come back with a sharp 50 grit going with the direction, and then we use an 80 grit, and this is all done with a 12-inch belt sander, and we call it the big machine. The edges are all sanded with an edger sander, and depending on whether or not it's a natural or a stain, determines the grit that we use. And in some cases, it's on new installations, we'll just edge the floor one time with an 80 grit. The next process is done with what we call a power drive, which is, Bona makes a 220 volt buffer type material, but it's extremely heavy duty, strong, and it's also weighted. And we use what we call a power drive. What they have made is there's 4 6-inch sanding discs that are gear driven and rotate, and then each disc rotates, and then the whole thing rotates. And we start the grit with 80 grit, and then we'll go to 100 grit, and then from there we'll change to what we call a multi-disc sander, and that's 6 discs, 5 inches, and we do 120 grit on that. And that's a setup for a natural color with no stain. Staining the floor requires different procedures depending on the color. Light stains with brown pigments, we can usually, the only thing really different we have to do is we have to edge the floor twice. We have to end our edge sanding with 100 grit because the 80 grit scratches show around the edges. If we're doing a dark stain, we have to physically hand sand all the edges and take out all the circular scratches that the edger disc puts in it. I think that's just about it on the sanding procedure. Well, I think, in my opinion, our strongest suit, I think, is the flatness of the floor itself. It's really important to us, and which is why we use the procedures that we use. We probably do overkill on the sanding, but the flatness of the floor is the most important thing to me. Sometimes sanders will leave sander marks in the floor, vibrations, things like that, and the circular direction sanding is a different direction from the big machine sander, so it does get the floor a lot flatter and smoother.